Here's the first document that I suggest you do for any job that you're applying for, unless you're trying to meet unemployment requirements. Requirements versus qualification. Very simple document. The left, I'm going to pull out 4, maybe 5 of the most critical responsibilities of the position I'm applying for. This is not in the order that it's written. This is not the requirements, meaning I have to have 10 years experience or have to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. These are the core responsibilities of the job. And you have to make a determination what you think is the most important. Then the right-hand column, I want you to list your accomplishments, skills, and abilities that demonstrate you meet that responsibility, that requirement. These can be bullets off your resume. We've got a question up here if we get a mic. What you're trying to do is connect the dots between what they're looking for and what you have to offer.
You mentioned earlier about the qualifications, and you mentioned like bachelor's and master's. Do you find that more jobs are requiring masters nowadays, or do you think not?
No, I think a bachelor's has almost become a minimum requirement, but master's, not really. I mean, it's an added benefit, but I see very few jobs that say master's required, unless you're going into higher education or sometimes in clinical, something that's healthcare related. But outside of that, not really. And the answer, and part of the question was, what do I do with my cover letter? Would I do that versus my resume? What I have been doing a lot lately is that this becomes the first page of my resume when I apply online. So when you open up my resume, that's what you're going to see. That document right there. Now, there's a couple things why I think this is important. One, if I pull out the most important responsibilities of the job, and I can't fill out the right-hand side of this document, I probably shouldn't be applying for the job. Don't waste my time. If I fill this out, I have a much better conceptual understanding of how I meet what they're looking for. And then I want to give this to everybody. And if it's online, my resume now becomes 3 pages. I want to make it easy for people to connect the dots between what they're looking for and what I have to offer. The second document, questions, thank you.
On the previous slide regarding qualifications, what if you don't have a qualification for a specific requirement that they're asking?
That's why you limit it to 4 or 5 and you limit it to 1 page. None of us will have 100%. So you pick out the 4 or 5 that will fit on 1 page that are the most important that you meet. So if there's one of them, I don't care even if it's number 1, that you don't meet, leave it off. Don't highlight what you don't have. We're trying to sell here, so highlight what you do have. When you go to an interview, that first sheet, requirements for qualification, that is a mandatory document that you give it to everyone you meet. So whether you want it or not, I'm going to shove it down your throat because I think it's that important that I want you to see it. So we sit down and you ask me that first official interview question. You answer your question, and in the same breath, I'm going to pull out this document. I'm going to say, in preparation for our interview today, I put together a document that I think might be helpful, and I wanted to share that with you. I'm going to hand it to you. So if you look at the left-hand column, those are the requirements of this job that I think are most important. And the right-hand side of the column, the right-hand side of the page, are my accomplishments, my experiences, my skills and abilities that demonstrate how I meet those requirements. And I'd be happy to take you through that if you think it would be helpful. Now, even if they don't go through it at that point in time, they will read it when you leave. And understand, what are we trying to do? Is connect the dots between what they are looking for and what you have to offer. Yes, sir.
Frank, what I've found that's been helpful is usually when you get to the interview, you've had a couple phone interviews or you've had contact with a recruiter or hiring manager. Most of those position profiles will have 10 to 12 things they're looking for, including walking on water. Usually I'll ask in these preliminary steps, based on the hiring manager, what they're looking for, what are the 3 to 5 things they would say are absolutely the most important?
Sure.
And then I'll put those as my qualifications during the interview process. This is what you've told me. This is how I can meet and exceed your expectations in those areas.
And that's what we're trying to accomplish here. But I would suggest you complete this document before you talk to anybody. Because you should have this in front of you during that phone interview. If I can get your email address, I'm going to send it to you so we can talk about this document on the phone interview. So I can try to get to a face-to-face. I need to sell as much as I can. But exactly right. We want to uncover it. That's the question. Have I picked out the right ones? That's part of the questions you want to ask in an interview, and you can update this document every step of the way as you learn more. Next, this is what I refer to as my cheat sheet. Okay? This I use in an interview too. And what's important for it, it makes me do my homework. Number one, what do I know about this company? So if someone asks, well, what do you know about my company? Well, I've got some bullet points here to remind myself of the homework I've done, so I explain to you that I did do research on the company. I do understand what they've sold and the size and everything that's unique about them. Number two, I want to know who I'm interviewing with. And I'm going to go out and do search on them. I'm going to do search on LinkedIn. I'm going to do search on Facebook. I'm going to Google them. I'm going to look at the company website. I want to learn as much as I can about the people I'm going to meet. Now, I'm not trying to stalk them. What I'm looking for is anything we have in common. I'm trying to build that relationship between me and you. I'm trying to answer that fit question. Because if I find out we have a similar hobby, we have a similar education, we both like dogs, it gives us something to talk about. It helps me pass that likability test. Third, selling points. When you put together your requirements and qualification document, the answer is here. What are the 3 things that you want to make sure everyone you interview with learns about you? Write them down here so you make sure you do. So when you hand me that requirements qualification document and I put it to the side, you have your cheat sheet of what you need to make sure I learn about you that's the most important.